Welcome to today's show. We are here recording this, and it is a beautiful morning for me. I'm looking out my window, and there's no snow.
I was
You
gonna say
guys,
there's no snow in Georgia, but it's been pretty cold. What's crazy is a week ago, I think we were running around in, basically a t-shirt outside, and then a cold front came in and it dropped to like 30 degrees. So,
so you and I switched because yesterday was the first day I was rocking it with a t-shirt and shorts, and I'm like, this feels amazing, which is exciting. Well, obviously but as our listeners, maybe some of you don't know, I'd moved from Hawaii, spent a couple of years there where every day was 75 degrees, and absolutely, it is as amazing as you would think. Yes, it's that way. And then I moved to Utah in the mountains and right into the winter. And so to see 70-degree weather yesterday and to look out the window and see that it's probably going to be that way again is very exciting for me.
I was gonna say I would like to find mountains where it's 70 degrees all the time. That would be like my ideal spot, because I love the 70, 75, 80 degree temperature.
Mhm.
I love just sitting out on your porch, chilling, right? I love all of that. But we don't love the sun so much. So like the beach is not ideal for me and my wife. So we take some resort vacations, but we'd prefer like mountains at 70 all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I like about when in the mountains when it's 70, and that'd be during the day, because it also cools down at night.
Yeah.
So you get the cool down at nighttime. So I like to sleep when it's cold. Like we'll run AC like crazy and make our house really cold at night during the summer. And so it's like, that's why the mountains are really cool. So I'm excited, but there is the whole, this is only like this for just a few months and then it's back to crap. There's snow. Yeah.
It would be miserable for me. Nothing against anybody who lives in Utah, but that's like a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
I lived in Wisconsin for a couple of years and it was just bitterly cold. One of the worst days I had in the military training environment was I step off a training bus and I see snow on the ground and I'm like, dude, they didn't tell us it was going to be cold.
No,
Cold weather.
well, and it's different kind of cold everywhere. Everywhere's a different kind of cold because Utah's cold and has this thing. And I remember I went to school in Ohio, and so I'm 18 years old. I jump on the plane, fly over there, and the winter in Ohio, because was introducing humidity to my world that I knew nothing about. Right, Utah's a desert land, and there's no humidity at all. It's like 0% humidity, super dry here. And I get to Ohio in the winter, and it was just adding that humidity to the cold and the snow. And I'm like, dude, screw this. I was like, no, thank you. So, well, before we get too far into today's show, I want to remind our listeners, the book, The Invisible Ceiling, is available for free. We've got a link down in the comments, but this is a book. If you're a law firm owner looking to grow and scale, Shane and I, we put this book together to help attorneys like you who kind of find yourself stuck in the invisible ceiling. So I felt remiss if I didn't let you know that we have the book and it is ready and it's live and we want to give you a copy. All you got to do is click that link below. It'll take you to a checkout page where we'll send that book directly to your door. Which, kind of brings us into the conversation today and the subject, right? We talk about the invisible ceiling. We had a whole series on it over the last probably 15 episodes or so have been on this how to do it. What are the steps to do with it? And really the steps that you took, Shane, on how you build it, how you break through these ceilings, of you as the owner being the bottleneck to your firm and growing into it. And today's conversation is going to be centered around one of those things that can help you, which is the all infamous name or word of networking and meeting people and all that. And I think it's a buzzword that gets thrown around, but what does that really mean, right? When we're talking about that, Shane.
And I think we're not talking about generally networking. We're talking about business, like mastermind or marketing groups, right? And when I look at this, there's really sort of, I guess, there's three big buckets, right? There's just the lead groups is what I would say, right? Where really the purpose is to know somebody but transfer leads a lot. And some people get very concerned about that in the legal space. That's like sort of your B&I, your chamber groups, things like that, which I never did a ton of those. I didn't like them.
Yeah.
And then you get your industry masterminder groups, and then you get your non-industry mastermind groups, right? And the non-industry mastermind groups are like any business is in there. There's usually some other criteria. And then you have your industry specific groups, which for us is like legal, right? And
Yeah.
you can even niche that down into just personal injury groups, which that's pretty specific. I've been in those more specific groups. Then I've been in legal groups. And then I've been in just general business owner groups, and I found tremendous value in all of them, honestly. But I think the most value for me is coming the ones where you're paying money to, you have to pay there. I've been in some free groups, and those generally just fall apart and don't have a lot of value.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long for them to fall apart. I've been in.
These are like three visits, maybe. Right?
Yeah, and you realize the caliber. Yeah, unfortunately, I wish it weren't this way because I think the intention is there, and people always, and I've heard a lot of people that can't pay to be in certain rooms. They're like, that's bullshit, right? I got to have this money. What are you trying to get? Is this just? And it's like, unfortunately, if with that pay barrier, when you have the pay barrier, you tend to get with people that are actually serious.
That's what I was going to say. And even me, right? I'll even say 100%. It matters to me. If the group is free, I may show up, I may not. If there's a specific person I want to talk to, I'll show up. But, when you pay, you're like, well, shoot, I've already paid for this.
Yep.
I better show up. And especially when you get into stuff that's, not quite so regional, right? Not in your little town, but when you've got to travel to get there, everybody's more serious because they took time off from work. They flew there or drove there. They got a hotel, and they've paid money, usually monthly, quarterly, or sometimes even yearly to be there. So they're more serious. They're there. You get less step outs where they're taking phone calls or watching their emails and stuff, and they're much more present and focused on whatever the purpose of the group is, right?
Yeah.
And as bad as it sounds, as I've gotten more successful, I've went to more successful groups, right? Where the pay to be there costs more money, because as you get further along, the low level ideas are already gone, right? And your problems aren't simple anymore, because if they were, you'd have solved them 4 years ago. I mean, if you've had your law firm 5 years, you've solved the entry level issues. You've survived 5 years. So if you're making money at that 5-year mark, you're at $3 or $4 million, or even $2 million. You've mastered some stuff. Right? You've got some stuff figured out. So the free group, or the group that costs $50 a month or whatever, those aren't your problems, right? You can go network, but you're not going to get new ideas and solve your issues, because your issues are bigger than a lot of the people in those groups.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is why it matters, because for me at least, because as I first ever joined the very first mastermind I joined because of the leader of the group, right? It was the guy who owned the company, and he was like, hey, here's this mastermind. It was him. To me, he was like a charismatic leader. I felt like he was going to, help me in my business. And mine was more of one of those where it was a collective of different business owners, right? It wasn't one industry or niche specific. Yeah. And that's why I joined, though, is because of him. And so I get in there, and I expected all the value of the group to actually come from him, right? I was like, okay, so I was tuning into him. And I think to some extent that room, at least that first one, and it wasn't a very expensive room to be a part of. I did have to pay. It wasn't free, but it wasn't much. And so the caliber of the person in there was also somewhat at my level as well. So there wasn't a lot of perspective that a lot of people could give me. So for an extent, it was the leader. But what was interesting to me is, as I was in that one for a while, and then I changed groups and have been to different ones, it's not always been, and actually the biggest, most profound things I've gotten from being a part of any group didn't come from the guy with the microphone. Yeah. Which seemed weird to me. And I think if you've, some of our listeners, if you haven't been involved in that, let's talk through that, Shane, because I think that's a confusing part of the game.
And it's weird, right? Because you show up to the group, you expect the one guy to lead it. You expect he's going to be giving you all the ideas. And I think at the lower level groups, right, the cheaper group, that's what you get, right? I mean, yeah. And that's probably pretty accurate, unless you just happen to have somebody who's in the group who's just much further along. But when you get to the mid groups, and it doesn't even have to be a huge amount. I mean, I'm thinking about one of the first groups I did, which seemed like a ton of money at the time, but it was $18,000 a year, right? So
Yeah.
1,500 a month, not cheap, but not super expensive either.
Yeah.
And I'm in there, and it's a group of, I think it was 20 people, but I started looking around, and some of them were further ahead than me, some were behind, a lot were behind, but some were ahead, and then they're doing stuff too. They're moving and grooving, and I said something I was doing, and one of the other guys who's got a little further ahead, he goes, "Oh, that's a good idea, but you're doing a little wrong." He goes, "This is what I did in my space, and this is how it worked." And it's like, boom, okay. Or they give you perspective, right? I was running ads or something, and I was complaining about how much it costs to get a client. I was like, yeah, this is years ago, but it was like it cost me $800 to get a client. And he goes, "Dude, what are you complaining about?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It cost me $1,500. I'm like, "Well, shit, okay, right?" But it fixes some perspective.
Well, there's an event I was at. I was at a 3-day event, and we're sitting there, and this was on day 3, and it was at lunch, and it had been good so far. And this was one I'd spend a little bit more in this group. It was than your 18,000, but not much. It was 25,000 for the year, and I'm sitting at this event, and it was, like I said, it was good. It had been good, and we're sitting at lunch on day 3, and I've talked a little bit about this before, in that I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur, and I like to do different businesses, things like this. And I had this harebrained idea to open a bakery, and I've just loved baking. It's like a passion of mine. So I was going to open this.
That one's always hard for me, Trevor, when you look at that. I'm just picturing you with a little chef hat on and a little apron and flour everywhere, and it just doesn't match the Trevor I know today. That's all.
Nope, it doesn't. And I actually did put the stupid baker hat on just because I was like, dude, if I'm going to bake, I'm going to do the whole part. I'm going to do the whole thing, all of it. So I'll just send you pictures. We'll post some pictures so you guys can see Trevor the baker. But I was getting ready to open this thing, and I was a couple weeks away from opening. I'm sitting at a lunch on day 3 of this event, and I'm sitting with 2 guys that are respected, very, very successful business owners in their field and industry. And I mentioned the bakery, and then they just asked me a few questions. And I'm not going to go into details necessarily about what we talked about because it's not relevant. But over that lunch, these 2 with their experience, with these 2 with their experience and just the questions, and they helped me in a way that took what could have been a pretty big failure because of what they pointed out to me that I just didn't know, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, they saved. And I had pen and paper out, and I was literally just feverishly writing while these 2 were asking me questions and kind of pointing things out, kind of similar to you, and saying, hey, I like what you're doing, but you need to pay attention to this, this, and this, because if you don't, then, and I'm like, it was funny. There was, I can't even remember what the question was, but there was a question he asked me, and when he asked it to me, I felt like an idiot,
right?
Because when he asked me, it was very obvious that I should have known that, and then I knew that I should have known it, and I didn't have an answer. I'm like, oh, I haven't done that, and he's like, bro, you're weeks away from opening, and you don't have that. It was it was something to do with cost of goods, with basically how much does one cookie cost, like what's my margin on the product.
Right?
It was a basic question that I'm like, and I didn't know. And I realized in that moment, I was literally just like, well, I'm just going to make stuff and sell it. And he's like, well, how are you getting the prices for it? How do you know how much you can sell it for? I'm like, because it sounded good. I was like, oh my gosh.
Cookie sounds good, right?
Yeah, because I'm like, I feel like someone would buy it at $1 a cookie. Seems like a great price, right? And it was crazy, and it exposed me in a way. And in that 1 hour lunch with these, it was worth, well more than the $25,000 I had spent for the whole year to be involved in this group, in that one conversation that had nothing to do with the leader. It had nothing to do with the agenda. It had nothing to do with how cool the frameworks or the videos or the calls were. And none of the things that were part of that group. It was literally the other people there who were up to big stuff, building their own empires, building their own world, being able to lend perspective to me. And had I not been there, had I just chosen, hey, I don't need other people, or I don't need to be in these rooms, I would have learned that the hard way, right? Which would have cost me a whole lot more than $25,000. to have learned the lesson that I learned just in that one little lunch. And that was, that I think that's what people, it's what I've heard it before, right? Even when I was first starting out, I heard people that are like, well, the real value is in the conversations in the hallway.
It is. It's in those. I would 100% agree. Like a lot of times, the stuff that the leader's teaching is helpful, right? And you generally need it, right? I mean, you go to a class on marketing, you go to funnels and things like that. You learn stuff, but I really think it's the lunchtime conversations, the conversations in the hall when you guys are just chatting. I think there's a lot of value if you're at a 2-day thing to staying in the host hotel and hanging out with the people afterwards, right? Whether that's at a bar or a restaurant or wherever, because you get those casual conversations and you start talking about your businesses and stuff, right? And for me, a lot of it's perspective. I can remember at points in my life where I'd be in a group and I heard somebody else say something like, dude, I'm not doing as good as I thought I was doing. Or I'm doing better than I thought I was doing, right? I'm down on myself for not winning more. And then you talk to everybody else and they're like, and you're like, oh, I am winning, which that's not a bragging or ego thing. It's like, oh, life is better than I thought it was. I thought I was getting my butt kicked and I'm actually winning or just staying the same, right? And this is sort of a great perspective when, as bad as it sounds, when the economy is bad, right? When, you're barely getting on or maybe your growth is slowed down to 10%, which I considered 10% growth over a year to suck, right? I was like, I'm a terrible person. I'm doing everything wrong. And then I show up to a group and I'm talking around and other guys are saying, yeah, we're down 20% this year. Well, suddenly only up 10% seems like a huge win. And I'm like, okay, I guess I shouldn't be acting like, the world is dying and I'm getting crushed and I'm an idiot, right? So that, or I've been to groups where I thought I was a big fish, right? And then suddenly, I'm at $3 million and one of the other guys in the room's at $10 million. And I'm looking around at him and I'm like, dude, you're not any smarter than I am. I need to get my butt in gear and grow, right? I need to quit coasting and get moving. So I've done, so groups are great for perspective. But
what I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that, and I love what you're pointing out because it's so true. As an entrepreneur, as you're growing your firm, it is very easy to isolate, and you lose that perspective, right? You don't know because your measuring stick is you don't have one.
Right.
You're literally measuring off of you, and so, but you've never done what you're trying to do, and it's one of the things that I've watched attorneys as you're trying to build your business get stuck because you don't have a proper measuring stick, and so you have no bearing. Are you going enough? Are you working hard? Is it working? Is it not working? Are these the numbers you should have, or are they not the numbers you should? And then in your mind, you'll start to think you are one way or the other, and both of them are just as damaging. Either thinking you're a piece of shit or thinking you're amazing. Either one of those.
Yeah, and measuring against yourself, you're measuring against who you were a year ago.
Yeah.
Right? But you're also measuring about your current frame and what you believe. And I say that in attorney space, it's even worse, right? Because going in law school, we work, we study super hard, we work a bunch of time. And if you listen to, I'm going to say lawyer propaganda, but it's that we work 60, 70 hours a week.
Right.
Half of us drink or do drugs or sleep with our secretaries kind of deal, or you're just going to get divorced. That's sort of the propaganda that's out there, all the stories. But you go to an event and you hang out with lawyers who are, at your level or a little bit ahead, you can start to measure against them, not in a competition way, but is my life, do I have to do this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more liberating. And I remember I'm at a group and there's a dude who's further ahead than me. And he says he takes off 1 week a month and he doesn't work Fridays. That at that point in my life was mind blowing because I was working I was working sun up to sundown, put the kids to bed, work 2 hours, before I go to bed, and working Saturday as well. And then my wife would go work on Sundays, so in my office. So it was like, that was mind blowing to me that I could actually, I didn't even get to the 1 week off a month. It was just like, take Fridays off. I'm like, well, that's fun.
Right.
It sounds insane to me. But then you go talk to those people. And I've never been in a group where somebody inside the group was unwilling to talk to me and tell me what was going on. I mean, I'm not going to say it couldn't happen, but I've never seen it happen.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems I had in groups wasn't other people not wanting to talk to me. It was me. What I realized, I was so afraid to be honest.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about that in a lot of our trainings that we do with teaching people something we refer to as the code, right? Telling the truth. But I was at the beginning of my game. I didn't want to be. I thought it would be embarrassing, right? Like my lunch with the two guys, and I had to admit that I had no idea what the hell they were talking about, and I didn't have margins built out inside of just how much it was for the cookie, and it's embarrassing. I thought. Because I thought I would be judged. I thought people would like make fun of me, or these businessmen who are, you know, way further down the road than me would be like, oh, he sucks, he's a loser, he doesn't know this stuff. And so when I would show up, I would try to pretend like I was way better than I was, right? I would frame things a certain way. And the problem is, what I didn't realize is that the real players, they knew I was lying. Number one,
They knew
like,
day one, right?
it wasn't even. It's so funny because I can see me and these people now that I meet, and they start talking to me, and I'm looking at them, and it takes me about 30 seconds to sniff out.
You can't fake it. I mean,
no.
As bad as it sounds, there's zero chance you can. And you know, as being in some of those groups, right? And I can remember, you know, because you'll age out of groups, right? You'll grow out of groups, and you got to level up your group. But I've been in some groups where I was near the top, right, or the top. And you hear somebody talking, and usually there's a power group inside of each group, right? There's like 4 or 5 guys who are just ballers, right, for that size group. And when you're in that group, and somebody comes up who doesn't know anything, they don't actually judge you. They may be like, dude, he needs to get some shit squared away, right? He needs to figure some stuff out. But they give you advice. The only time I've been in one of those groups where I've been frustrated with somebody is when they show up, visit after visit after visit, and they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Right. I never minded giving somebody some pointers or say, hey, this is what I think you ought to do or something else. The frustration I had after like 2, 3, 4 visits, when you're talking to them and they're in the same spot they were at the very beginning, and they haven't taken any action, they haven't done anything, and you're like, you know what, I'm not going to tell you anything else because you're not doing anything I ever help. You know, you're not doing anything. Not even are you not doing what I tell you to do or what Joe tells you to do or Fred or anybody else. You're also just not doing what you're telling yourself you're going to do.
Yeah, and I think you're pointing out, someone who's growing can identify when people are growing, and you know when other people are growing. So these groups they're a valuable place because you expose yourself one of two ways, right? And are you the person who just shows up and doesn't actually do any of the work required to be any different, or and in that it's an interesting dynamic with it. I think something that's hard too. I think would be important to address. You know, maybe kind of the last talking point of today's show on this idea, but walk through what was it like for you, and then I'll share my thoughts. What was it like for you when you were first starting in the game and somebody presented you with, hey, give me money to show up to this thing where we're going to teach you some stuff and you're going to meet some people, right? Your first group experience, and like, was it easy for you? Were you like sold on it already because you knew this was a valuable tool, or was it weird? What was it like for you?
So when I first started my firm, I had bumped into somebody who talked about a lawyer who helped people start their firms, basically, right? He ran a mastermind group and he ran a coaching program on how to build your firm. And I was like, you know what? And it was like $300 a month or something, $200 a month. And I don't even think you got direct contact with him. But you got like a call, you know, he did a group call, he answered some questions, he did some mindset stuff, but he also did some tactical stuff, right? 2 calls a month.
Right.
And his newsletter. And I was like, you know what do I know about running my law firm, right? I'm like, I'm a smart guy, but I don't know how to generate leads, basically, you know, right? Yeah. And how to run it. So I joined his group, and that part was pretty easy because it was like $300 a month, right? And it was easy, but it was, you know, I read the stuff because he sent it, and part of that was like a start your law firm kit. And I'm like, well, hell, okay, maybe. I looked at it as an accelerator, like we've talked before, right? Coaching is an accelerator. I looked at it as like, let me get this stuff squared away, because I was all in when I started my firm, right? I needed it to make money. It was my job, and I needed to make money. I was serious about starting a law firm, you know. It wasn't a side hustle kind of deal. So I got that stuff, and I started implementing all that stuff because I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about it. Boom. And So that was pretty good. It was very nerve-wracking for me to join the first mastermind, though, because that was like $18,000, $16,000 a year kind of deal. It felt like a big number, and it was a big number. I mean, it was probably, 10% of my profit. So like doing it was a significant like stretch. It's like, dude, this better work. And I remember having a conversation with my wife, and she goes, "Do you think it's going to help you?" Like, I hope so, babe. Right?
Like I'm putting a lot of coin behind it, so it better.
Yeah. And I was super stressed, and then I show up, and I felt like the small fish, right? And I felt like rolling in, I was a small fish. I really wasn't the smallest fish in the room, but I was certainly in the bottom 25%, right, in that room, day one. But talking to other people, other lawyers in the room, because it was a legal only one, I got some ideas. I saw some people that were ahead of me. I heard some crazy, to me, statistics, right? Like, and I saw some people were spending money and running their firm. And as bad as it was, or as silly as it is, when I left, it was like, dude, they actually were able to come to this event and spend 2 days talking about what they're doing. And I saw some that were further ahead than me, what? And I'm like, okay, that's where I want to be, right? That's who I want to be when I grow up, right? And but it was super scary, because it was, like I say, like 10% of my money. It was a big deal. I didn't know anybody who ever spent $1,500 a month to be in a group, right?
Right.
All I was familiar with is some of the local groups that were like $300 a month, $400 a month, where you get together, have breakfast or lunch or whatever kind of deal, or bar groups that are, free, or $300 a month kind of deal, or $300 a year, right? No real cost to get in.
Yeah.
So it was frightening staying in the hotel, flying and staying in the hotel. It was weird. And then you get there and you realize everybody's in the same boat you're in. Everybody's got the same issues, just on different scales, right? Some are bigger, some are smaller. And everybody really wants to succeed. And like I say, 99.5% of them are glad to help you. I mean, I remember bumping into one person there, and I was like, dude, I'd love to hear more about it. And they're like, well, just when we get back home, call me. Send me a text. We'll get on the calendar. We'll talk.
Yeah.
And boom. And that conversation probably, would save me 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? So it was scary to me, but it was so worthwhile. And it got me, not only that, but it also got me used to spending more money on coaching and seeing the value in those groups and, growing the firm, right? And realizing I didn't have to do it all on my own, right? There were products out there. There were people out here who'd done this before, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're willing to help out and encourage you. They don't look at it like, if I'm in Georgia and they're in, Alabama, we're not really competitors.
Right.
And not only that, but in some of these legal groups, I meet lawyers who are in the same space as me, PI, and they're in Alabama. Well, I'm in Georgia. It's one state over. Boom, suddenly I get an Alabama case. I just call my friend, refer the case over to him. I get a co-counsel fee. Boom, right? Rather than to send it to some stranger, he's going to make sure I'm compensated for the co-counsel fee, because we see each other twice a year. You know what I mean? 4 times a year. And you realize he's a good guy. So it was scary. It was totally worthwhile. I made connections, and when we talked about the free group, I remember 3 or 4 of us tried to start a free group, and it just never went anywhere, right? Like, it's like, maybe we don't need to pay the 18 grand, or maybe we want something more specific, right? I don't think any of us were going to quit the $18,000 group, but we wanted to get together more frequently, and it never worked.
No.
Right? Versus a group leader sets the date, you're there or you're not, the event happens or you're not, and you work around it. Versus a free thing, it's like, I'm supposed to go do this, or let me schedule this, or, oh shoot, it's Super Bowl weekend, we're not going to go. All these things come up that you just cancel.
Oh yeah, it's way easier, and the free doesn't really work. Yeah, it just doesn't. But yeah, I for me it was, and this is what I'll leave the question kind of an action item or just more a thought process for everybody, because it was the same thing that I had to determine right at the beginning of my entrepreneurial growth when I decided, hey, I'm going to be a business owner. Was, am I all in? And for me, that's the reason I joined the first group, because it was, am I all in at this? Well, then I'm going to do everything it takes. And I know there's other people that know things I don't know. And so for the nature, granted, I already talked about how I had to learn how to be honest. I had to learn how to not posture in the rooms because I was just wasting my time, energy, and effort, and I was the fool in the room.
And there are some groups that are like the posturing, right?
You'll bump into for sure.
And you'll know after like one visit where it's all beat your chest or how great I am kind of groups. Or at least there's a group section inside of some of those groups. And I always gravitate to the other ones, right? Because, if all you're doing is beating your chest saying how great you are, you're not going to get value out of the group.
No. But I remember it was the first event I ever went to that was part of this, that had the opportunity for this mastermind. It was a company called Nouveau Riche. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it was actually a multi-level marketing company.
Was it a multi-level? That's
yes.
what I was thinking it was.
Yes, it was like in real estate. It was like this thing, but you had this, and I was infected by being around other people that wanted to grow. I didn't care what they wanted to grow into. There's just some energy that was there that fueled me. It was like going to the gas station and getting filled up with fuel. Like it was like so it would inspire me to move. And from that, I kind of got hooked on it. And then I met my career. If you would look back at my business career, you could look at key moments where key people have been involved, and that I met them through some type of a mastermind environment, no matter how it was. And it's and you could take those people out of my career doesn't happen.
Well,
I don't end up where I'm at. Yeah.
One of the things I wrote down is, the connections you make sometimes are massive, right? And that's one of the reasons why sometimes you'll do, you do a bigger group is to meet people, right? Big enough. You don't want to do a 300 person group or a 100 person group. I like 20-ish, 20 to 30-ish is sort of my sweet spot. Yeah. And you meet somebody and you're like, dude, this is a great connection, right? Either a vendor, if they don't do what you do, or just a co-counsel dude. I mean, we met somebody at a group who, like I say, invited us down there, and I saw some of the stuff they were doing in their law firm. I'm like, dude, maybe I can't do it as good as these guys, but I can certainly do it better than I've been doing, right? And that was massive for me. That one trip down there, that connection, I don't want to say changed my life because it sounds crazy, right? But it certainly made my life a whole lot better, right? I mean,
well, there's an argument that could be had that do you not make that connection, do you ever make the turn?
Yeah, and I don't know.
We don't know, right? So we can always play the what if game, but what you know is because you made the connection, you made the turn.
Right.
And I have tons of evidence of that. And if you talk to anyone who's been at a mastermind for any length of time and they found the one that, they found this environments that really work for them, they have the same story. Right. They meet somebody that helps them see something that they didn't, and it's not even intentional. Like I said, it's usually the conversations outside of the main conversation. But I think as we wrap today, just the understanding of what I want you guys all to do is kind of I want you to make a decision the same way I've made the decision. I know you made the decision, Shane, which is if you're all in, you have to answer that first. And I'm going to assume that you said you're all in. Then the question becomes, are you doing everything in your power to grow? Like, what is the point? It's like you and I've talked plenty of times about why grow. Well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to grow. Like I'm not status quo. I'm not riding off into the sunset. And if most of you guys that are listening to this, you're in the growth phase of your firm. You're figuring out how to do all these nuances, things like that. You've got, I hate to say you have to, but I just don't see another option. But you've got to surround yourself with other people who are doing and growing and ambitious like you, because you will fuel each other and it becomes this environment. So that's the question. If you're all in and you're not part of a mastermind, what are you doing? Like, why? I don't even care which one it is. I mean, it could be a mastermind here with us at the Legal Edge, but this isn't even a pitch for us. This is literally a pitch for get yourself in the room.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to not be in the room. It is not an expense. It's an investment into what's coming down the pipe for you. There are 8 billion people on the planet. It's ludicrous to think that if you isolate yourself in your room, you're going to have this great, brilliant idea to go build this empire, when you could utilize the experience of these other 8 billion people, create some great friendships along the way, which is like a side caveat. But more on a business side, it literally will give you the keys to the kingdom. There are people that will say one thing to you. They will ask you one question in a way that totally you're like, oh my gosh, let me go do that. You're right. That's a good idea. And as soon as you do that, all of a sudden your growth curve that's been going like this, it just goes, right, and accelerates up. And it's inarguable. You could never convince me other than this. Like you couldn't.
Even something as silly as I've been in groups with people, and I'm like, hey, which vendor are you using for this issue? Rather than just trying to figure it all out, because we all get pitches, right? You reach a certain size and you get pitched I think you get pitched all the time at every level. But I mean, you ask them, hey, I need a new website. Who are you using? Are you happy with them? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's like, nah, they were good. Or sometimes I've had an answer of, well, I've had them for a year. Call me in 6 months, right? And I'll tell you whether I like them or not. But that keeps you from just going into this sea alone kind of deal, or totally unknown and just trying to make decisions based on vendors. I mean, we had one vendor, I think, he was in one of our groups, not in the groups, but, one of the members was using them, and he got recommended like 3-4 guys. I think that business person's business doubled or tripled, but all of us were happy with the work, and I didn't have to spend any time vetting that vendor in a way, because I knew the guy. I knew he was actually a psychopath when it came to numbers and managing everything. And I'm like, dude, if he can make this guy happy, he certainly is going to make me happy. So done. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah. Well, it was all the work was done. This is a funny. My health insurance is that way because my sister is a crazy person when it comes to this stuff, and so she did all this work, and I know she did a ton of work to figure it out. Right. And then when she was done, I'm all, well, so what did you figure out? And she tells me, and I'm like, sweet. And then I always switched all my insurance over because I knew whatever she had done was the right thing.
It was going to be good.
It was going to be exactly what was required. Is what we needed. So, yeah. So as we wrap today, like find a group. The entry level into find out if we're a group for you is through this book, The Invisible Ceiling. Right? Grab the book because this will let you know do Shane and I actually make sense for you. Right, to actually have a conversation and dive into some of the groups and the things that we do here. But get yourself around somebody. If it's not us, find someone. I don't even care what it is. You've got to find it. I don't know. I wouldn't say Google search that. I don't even think you'd find anything.
No, but you can
Google
start,
search.
right? I mean, start at some kind of group, even if it's a local chamber group, chamber event. Bunch of social groups have it. I mean, get in a group at least now, and then start finding the perfect group is what I would say.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's like your marketing. Start marketing and then work on making it better.
Yep. That's it. As simple as that. So just agree that it's non-negotiable for you. Make the move forward because growth is non-negotiable. So as we wrap today, we appreciate you guys being listeners of the show. However it is that you're viewing. Again, to get a copy of our book, The Invisible Ceiling, the link is below in the description. We're going to give that to you for free. If you got value from today's show, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. We appreciate it. This show grows because of you. So if you don't like and share and subscribe to it, it doesn't grow, and we can't give value to the other attorneys just like you who are out there doing your thing. So if you like today's show specifically, share that up with somebody else who might also get value from today's show. Again, we appreciate you. For more information on how you can work with us in the future and different adventures you're doing with your firm to get you unstuck, again, the link's in the description below, but head over to legaledgecoaching.com. That being said, appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We're out.